Do you have the 5 key resilience traits that can help you manage stress, deal with uncertainty, and navigate challenges and opportunities in the best possible way? Well, I'm going to share with you what these 5 are, and really this is a way that you can coach yourself, because there's a very good chance that at least one of these traits comes naturally to you, but the key is for you to be intentional about using it and applying it to the situations you're currently dealing with. And right now, all of us are dealing with all the various things that are going on in the world, but then you've got things that may be going on at home, in your finances, in your work, or your health. Resilience is an essential skill. We've got a coach training intensive coming up, and one of the things we talk about in the coach training intensive is how can you help other people to be more resilient? How can you coach them to greater levels of resilience and having a greater sense of capacity for dealing with more and dealing with uncertainty? So if you've ever considered incorporating coaching into your leadership style or your skill set, or you've considered becoming a coach, check out the Coach Training Intensive. Okay, here are these 5 resilience traits. These actually come from my book, Life Coaching for Successful Women. And I'm just going to read a little bit from you here and then share the 5 traits. So I said, research shows that resilient people think differently. They have a set of skills, sometimes learned, sometimes innate, that allow them to persevere, to manage stress, and to triumph in the face of challenges. So here are the 5 things. The first one is the most resilient people are authentic. Basically, they're at peace with their own humanity. They understand that sometimes they'll make mistakes, sometimes things don't go as planned, sometimes they just need to learn more, learn from those errors, find the lesson in whatever has happened, and then move on. They don't feel the need to pretend or to show up as just perfect. What they recognize is that none of us is perfect. All of us make mistakes. All of us fall short. And because they're comfortable with that, they are able to move forward and bounce back more quickly, even when they're at fault for whatever the challenge is that is going on. They actually have more compassion for themselves, and they're more authentic, so they're able to admit their mistakes. And this helps them bounce back even in relationships. All right, trait number 2, they are flexible thinkers. Flexible thinkers. So basically, even if initially they struggle with negative thoughts, the most resilient people are able to bounce back, and they're self-aware enough to notice when those negative thoughts are causing them to be counterproductive, and they will actually choose new thoughts. So they will see themselves getting into a rut, and they'll say, wait a minute, that's not going to help me move forward. I've got to think of this differently. They actually will find ways to adjust and course correct if they figure out that the path they're taking isn't quite working for them. So flexible thinking is absolutely essential for resilience. And the most resilient people are flexible thinkers. If something's not working, they make adjustments until they find what will work. All right, trait number 3, they are mostly optimistic. Now, I didn't say they're entirely optimistic, because sometimes you don't need to be optimistic about certain things. If there is real risk, if something needs to be stopped, if it's time to just literally give up, sometimes there are reasons that the path we're taking is not going to work or is no longer the path. And we may not have known that until we have moved along the path. But when we see the block, we're willing to say, all right, it's time to stop. However, the most resilient people are optimistic about their ability to work around such obstacles or work through them, their ability to come up with a plan B. So it's not so much that they're just blindly optimistic. It is that when faced with real challenges and real risk, they are intentional about reducing that risk. They're intentional about bringing in the people, the resources, whatever it is that it will take to work around the challenge. Optimism is powerful. In fact, the research shows that the most optimistic people actually live longer, in some cases as much as 9 years longer than the most pessimistic. people. Pretty interesting stuff. So, trait number 4, I think this one is probably the most important. They reach out. The most resilient people reach out. They don't go it alone. They are they're wise enough and humble enough to ask for help when they need it. They ask for help not only in the form of, I may need you to actually help me do something, but they reach out for help just for someone to be a sounding board, to help them process challenges and problems and brainstorm for solutions. They also happen to be the people that are more likely to reach out and help others. So reaching out, having strong relationships, having a support network is essential for resilience. And then here is number 5. They use their strengths. And here's what I said. Everyone has innate talents and strengths. When faced with a challenge, there is power in tapping into those strengths, the things that come naturally to you. It takes less energy to use your strengths, and in fact, you're energized by them. So know what yours are and use them. So I'm just curious, which one of these 5 speaks most to you? What do you think is the one that you could call on right now when you think of your biggest challenge? Is it authenticity? Is it flexibility? Is it your optimism? Is it reaching out? Or is it your strengths? Maybe you even notice that, maybe you have all 5. Maybe you have 2 or 3. If so, that's fantastic. What we want to do is find those ways to tap into our resilience by tapping into these traits and asking ourselves, how could I apply this trait to solving the challenge I'm dealing with right now? This kind of coaching question will move you forward. And like I said at the beginning, if you have even considered coaching as a part of your skill set to be able to lead and manage better, to be able to manage even your own personal growth and development, or you've thought about actually becoming a coach, I invite you to go out to capinstitute.com. You'll find there a path to becoming a coach where I answer all the most common questions for people who've thought about coaching. And of course, you can join us at our upcoming Coach Training Intensive. Talk to you next week.